Coming up on this edition of Speed Chronicles, it's the long weekend.
SIG Media presents
Speed Chronicles with Todd Lewis,
powered by Rev TV.
Thanks for coming back and checking out another edition of Speed Chronicles. We do it every Wednesday. You'll find it on the Rev TV YouTube channel and, of course, on your favorite podcast platform as well. Please hit the like and subscribe button. It's a weird long weekend. Happy Canada Day, July 1st, happens to fall on a Wednesday in the middle of the week. Happy 4th as well. I like to acknowledge and celebrate both holidays in both countries because I have ties to both countries. Born in Canada, moved to the United States many years ago, and so kind of keeping one foot on each side of the border. Like 2 Thanksgivings, two celebrations for July 1st and July 4th. Same kind of thing. Why not? Okay, let's get into some stories. First, Formula One, Austria. Sometimes qualifying for a race, whichever series, it isn't all that exciting. But I always like to watch qualifying. There's usually something that you can pick up from it. Sometimes there's a unique little twist. I like to watch practice too, but that's for different reasons in another time. This, though, the qualifying session, Formula One in Austria, super dramatic. Q3, the Ferraris are on top. Max Verstappen is on a flyer, crashes. It appears as if the session is going to end. We're going to have an all Ferrari front row. It's going to be a really interesting start to the race. But wait, George Russell blitzes a time. However, with the Verstappen crash, yellow flags should be flying, don't you think? Yes, they were. When did they come out? When did Russell go through? When did he let off? How much did he let off? After all the discussion and back and forth, turns out lap was okay. He was on an absolute ringer of a lap. Anyhow, I was a little surprised that it was allowed to stand, but it did. But it was sensational. And it was really good to watch as well. Watching the TV coverage on Sky Sports, the way they covered the qualifying was excellent. Karun, Chandhok, who I think is great in an analyst role, he pointed out that Verstappen was needing to make up time in Sector 3. That's where he needed to make up time. Bernie Collins, who I would also love to see and hear more from. Can we have her at every race, please? She reports specifically it is corner 9 where Verstappen needs to improve. He's pushing on the final lap, crashes. Where does the crash occur? Corner number 9. Great television. Really well done. Unfortunately, they missed the Russell lap and got around to it and corrected it. But it was really a good sequence of television. Really well done, on the fly. Great work jumping from one commentator to another, each adding a little bit of information. Excellent work by the crew, working video and switching shots. When something was happening, if fast, you need to get there quickly. It was a really, really well done, smooth production. To be able to present that to an audience in real time when things are happening so quickly, lots of issues, lots of questions that need to be answered and presented clearly, really great work. Thought it was well done. I do have another TV coverage thought or two from shots of, I saw it a bit in qualifying, but I'm thinking more about it when the race coverage is on for Formula One. Sometimes it's great to use certain camera shots. Other times it's not necessarily the best choice to use them. Sometimes they should be used as a little flavor, a little extra, as opposed to leaning on them and relying on them too much. Everybody's got an opinion. Some like some shots, some like a lot of shots. F1 has been using a drone a little bit. They've been integrating it into their broadcast slowly and understandably. They still use the tried and true helicopter shots. They still use predominantly the hardwired cameras. And obviously you can only do so much with a helicopter. You can do things with hardwire cameras that you can't do with drones and vice versa. The shots from the drone this past weekend didn't fly directly over the cars because F1's not ready for that yet. And there was only a small area where they were allowed. I like the idea of using drones to add something different, to add a different angle. Use them to highlight something that you can't see with other cameras. This was my personal belief. And I thought it wasn't used effectively in Formula One. I reached out to a director friend of mine and asked him about it and gave me his approach. He likes to rely on the tried and true. If you've got a unique camera angle, be it a drone or something else, use that to supplement. It should not be what you lean on. What I find too often is something that happened in the race is that you're trying too hard to squeeze in this unique toy that you happen to have. Seems like the drone was chasing and didn't have the right angle for the shots. Can't quite keep up with the cars. And it's not surprising. The cars go really fast. That's just the hard part about using them. And there's going to be a little bit of trial and error in figuring out the best way to get the right angle, get the speed properly in the shot. Obviously, on huge road courses, the task is different than on a short oval, because we've seen different coverage of tracks at some series that will allow drone operators to fly right over the cars. If you're on a short oval, that's a much easier thing to do and is more likely to be allowed there than in Formula One. So I think it's great that they have it. Let's try to find the best way to use it. Have a reason to use them. Show something specific. I find some directors tend to lean on this fancy new toy that they happen to have, and sometimes they try to squeeze it in and use it too much. I don't think it was the best decision in how it was used for Formula One in Austria. What I really liked about last week's race too, Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, going at it head to head, fighting for position. It was great racing. Two of the best, absolutely hammering on each other as hard as they dared, but also really respectful. It is the best kind of racing that I love to watch. Two supremely talented drivers, Hamilton, Verstappen, world champions, going at it, hard, battling through every corner, full-on knockdown fight, but giving the other guy racing room, letting them stay in the fight without an unfair disadvantage by squeezing them out or something like that. I could watch that for days and days and days. That was just terrific racing, and I hope we get to see more of it. IMSA, Watkins Glen. What a crash fest. What a crash festival. 6 hours of action. Action to say the least. Too many big crashes. I know this happens in mixed classes of sports car racing, but oh my goodness. It was a mistake and it was admitted, but a crash under the full course yellow, gosh, that's not ideal. The longest green flag run was a little over an hour and it was to the checkered flag. Not ideal, not their best effort. Weather was great. Crowd was great. This event continues to thrive. CTMP is next up. If you're going to make it, make sure you catch the MX5 Cup Series races. They're fantastic. NASCAR, Sonoma. Is anyone going to be able to stop Shane Van Gisbergen on a road course anytime soon? Well, we won't have to worry about that for a while. He just seems to find a way to get it done. Now, if he could make some progress on the ovals, I suspect we won't be hearing a lot about him moving forward now. Who I feel for, his teammate, Connor Zilic, who is a super talented race car driver. Have had a couple of brief interactions with him. Super nice guy. Really enjoyed watching him and progress through his career. He kind of got fast-tracked and moved up really quickly. Could he have benefited from another year in O'Reilly and racing other things, maybe as opposed to moving right up to the Cup Series? I get it, but he's the young hotshot phenom that we want to get in as soon as possible. Finally got himself a good finish at Sonoma. It has taken that long. His average finish this year, 27.1. Now, I believe he's going to turn out to be a tremendous driver in the Cup Series. He'll win a lot of races. He'll probably win championships, but it just seems like this is a really rough ride in the rookie year. NASCAR Canada made the trek out to the East Coast to Riverside. Lovely little 1/3 mile oval, high banking. You can race side by side there. It's terrific to watch. Happy for Kevin Lacroix, who won the race. It has been a really rough stretch for him going back into 2025 as well. He had some malfunctions and breakdowns and some rough outings, made some mistakes, continued into this year as well. He broke down on the pace laps at the season opener at CTMP. That was probably the low point, I would think. But congratulations, got the win and needed that big boost. Couple of thoughts. The rain messed up the schedule a little bit. They were a bit delayed starting and then had another problem pop up that they couldn't turn the lights on at the track. I understand that they had a generator there that was to operate the lights and let's just say had a major malfunction, had to find another one, had to correct it, took a little while. I think 300 laps there is too many. I especially don't understand it when you squeeze in 2 breaks at lap 100 and lap 200. Run 250, break halfway through, let them change tires, whether it's going to be 2 or 4, whatever you decide. I don't think you need 300 laps there, my personal opinion. Also, the number of entries, as we speculated, it wasn't great. 17 were there, yes, but 3 were start and park cars. And they were down to 11 running cars by the end, which is not ideal. The only caution periods were for the brakes at lap 100 and lap 200. The 98, 85, and 69 cars, they were start and parks. They're there to get points for the owner standings to help with the eligibility for the Markham race because they want to participate in that one. It's going to be tough again, I suspect, out in Edmonton this year. I'm interested to see what they can come up with. NASCAR Canada is back in action this weekend. It's a NASCAR Canada doubleheader. They've cut the regular scheduled race in half, so they'll do 2 sprint races at the Autodrome Montmagny. Tight schedule, 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. green flags for the 2 races. So there's not a lot of time in between. Remember what happened the first time. Did well in the first race, you do well in the second. If you have troubles, it could be big trouble in race number 2. NASCAR is at Chicagoland. Formula One is at Silverstone with the British Grand Prix. IndyCar is at Mid-Ohio. Oh, what a weekend it's going to be. It's a long weekend, of course. We'll see if Scott Dixon can have another victory at Mid-Ohio. It has been his playground. Picked up his 7th last year after a mistake from Alex Palou. We'll see what happens, and we'll look forward to more driver rumors in IndyCar as well. Have a great long weekend. Happy Canada Day. Happy 4th. Enjoy the weekend of racing, and please don't forget, hit the like and subscribe button. We'll do it again next Wednesday.